Hi, so for the final tasting note tonight, wine number 4, we are looking at the lovely region of Cahors in the southwest of France. So a really small region, as we mentioned in the introduction there. So this is the Chateau de Cèdre Heritage Cahors, and it is dominated by Malbec, the beautiful grape variety Malbec. It is 2016 vintage. So Malbec itself, though, is first of all again quite richly pigmented black-skinned grape. It is native to Cahors, despite what people think. Most of us are very much aware of the fame of Argentinian Malbec, which the grape has now become Argentina's most iconic grape by a long way, and most widely exported as well. The grape itself, the characteristics, really small, very, very small grapes themselves. They're very intensely colored, as I mentioned before. In Cahors, it actually has another name, Côte. They're similar to the Loire Valley, slightly different spelling. But the success of Argentinian Malbec on a world scale has meant that a lot of producers now in Cahors are actually using the word Malbec on their bottles, which, the French don't often like to change what they kind of do in regards to the wine traditions, but sometimes for economic reasons, they'll definitely take them on board. Now, it used to be a big part, this grape, Malbec, of the Bordeaux red blends. So Bordeaux, famous for its wonderful Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, but Malbec used to be a major, major player. That was up till 1956, when there was a weather event known as the Great Frost in southwest France, specifically around the Bordeaux region, which really did wipe out a huge amount of vines and a lot of Malbec, which is actually quite susceptible to frost itself, unlike other varieties. So vineyards, when they were replanting, they chose easier and more manageable varieties. Merlot really came to the fore. So Merlot itself is a very, very easygoing grape to grow, to cultivate, to work with, whereas Malbec can be a little bit more susceptible to pests, disease, and frost, like I mentioned. So now you're not really seeing it too much at all in Bordeaux, but it's still there as the dominant force in Cahors, the kind of small region itself. Now, the other thing it is susceptible to, which I'll just mention, is this phenomenon called couleur. Couleur is basically when the grapes themselves bud, but then they fail to grow properly. So you're left with these tiny, really insignificant, extremely acidic, tiny little fingernails of grapes, and they're just useless. You can't do anything with them, and basically that happens, and it's due to the weather. Certain weather conditions create that. So Malbec is definitely known for being susceptible to that. Chateau de Cèdre itself is known and widely regarded as the leading estate in the Cahors region. The estate began in 1958 by a Belgian family. It is now run by brothers Pascal and Jean-Marc Verhagen. So Pascal Verhagen himself is known as being the Merlin of Cahors. That's down to basically, and due to his experience and knowledge working with the Malbec grape itself. Nobody in the region does it better. 90% of the estate itself is Malbec. Then they also go 5% Merlot and 5% Tannat. And in 2012, they completely eradicated the use of chemicals and were certified fully organic. So, yeah, it's really, like I said, a really high esteem vineyard and chateau area. So down to the wine. This is the Heritage. It's one of their signature wines. It is a blend of 95% Malbec, and there is also a little dash 5% of Merlot in there as well. The vines are around 30 years old themselves, and the wine itself goes through a 20-day warm ferment process, which, warm ferment, we're talking, as I mentioned before, between 25 and 32 degrees, really. That's pretty typical for red wine, whereas with white wines, you're looking at a fermentation temperature between 15 and 20, so they're quite different. The wine is then matured for 18 months in 90% concrete vats, which is still very much widely used in France in particular. And then 10% of the wine is matured for 18 months in 2-year-old French oak. So while the second year of use of oak is not going to be as intense as the first, it's still going to have a huge amount of character, and that 10% really does add something, as you'll notice when you're tasting. The structure, the complexity is all there. In regards to tasting notes, I adore this wine. You may have noticed by now that the bottle is actually empty, so I may have got a little stuck into it last night. So usually I have the wine in the actual bottle, but yeah, last night doing my tasting notes, I just really enjoyed it. So yeah, why not? Anyway, it's got a beautiful, rich, inky color. On the nose, you get those lovely kind of aromatics of dried herbs. I'm thinking kind of roasting herbs, and then there's lovely dried blackcurrant fruits really coming to the fore with dashes of mulberry and blackberry in there as well. You've got those lovely aromatic spices also, as well as then the palate weight, which is kind of medium to full, I think, with this wine. So the body is medium to full. You've got lovely kind of textural mouthfeel really shining through. You've got this wonderful kind of super velvety and generous kind of mouthfeel, which I really enjoy. And as I mentioned before, that complexity, that structure is all there in the wine really well. And then on the palate, you get that lovely kind of hits of sweet and sour coming through too, and then a little bit of grip just starting to come through on the tannin there. When this would have been first put into oak or the concrete vats, the tannin would have been a lot higher, but over the last 4 years since vintage, that tannin would have really bedded down, and just aging it and maturing it for 18 months has really settled it down, but still left that little bit of grip that you want from a fairly serious red wine like this. So look, I make no hesitation, I've really enjoyed all of the 4 wines that I've got to show you tonight, but this particular wine was, for me, absolutely outstanding. I really hope that you do enjoy it yourselves. So lastly, what I'm going to do just before I sign off is I'll just show you the labels of each wine a little bit closer. So starting with the Jacquard. So that's the first one we had tonight. And then wine number 2 was the Rosé de Loire, so Val de Loire. I really think that was quite pretty. And then wine number 3, we had the lovely Monjuice from Domaine Châtillon. And then finally, the empty bottle of the Cahors. So, look, again, thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I really hope you can make the next one. I'm not sure if it'll be 2 or 3 weeks for it yet, but I'll keep you posted. The live text is operational. I'd love to hear your thoughts as always. Any questions you have, please don't hesitate. I love questions. Yeah, I'll be here till about 8:15. So cheers. Thank you.